exactly do you mean to say OpenNebula? Because in the previous topics, whatever we saw, so we saw how to start from how to create the VMs on the hypervisors. That discussions we had as a part of first module. Then later we saw with respect to the EC2 instances and working with the AWS. Again, setting up the different kind of firewalls. Then later in the third module where we saw related to the Dockers, containers, and open in this thing Kubernetes. Now we are jumping to the OpenNebula. What do you mean by this OpenNebula in the sense? See, as a part of this cloud computing tools which you are looking after in this particular course. So this OpenNebula is a open source platform actually. So for what? For obviously it says that so you for building and managing the private, public, and hybrid clouds. See, if you ask me like you wanted to come up with any kind of a small startup. Okay, for that small startup, you wanted to create your own private, cloud infrastructure. So what you can do, go with the this OpenNebula? Definitely yes. So that's what I mean to say. You can, if at all, if you want to create the simple private cloud for your startup, or you wanted to create the public cloud, otherwise you create your own private cloud in your premise. Then you wanted to also have a interconnection with the other cloud infrastructure like AWS. So can I do that? Definitely yes. That is what I mean to say hybrid clouds. So that's what my dear. So for anybody, any organization or any enterprise, so if you want to start with creating your own, start from creating your own private cloud till combining with the other cloud infrastructures which are already available, or the cloud service providers which are already available. Can I do that in a sense? For that one solution or one option you have, which is by using the OpenNebula. So when you talk about the OpenNebula, so what kind of service it can provide in the sense, as we have already listed out in the very beginning of this course, which are the three different cloud services what you have, like it can be IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So among that, majorly this OpenNebula will be offering this service, which is IaaS service, which is infrastructure as a service. That's what I mean to say. You are trying to create your own private infrastructure or public infrastructure, or you are combining with other clouds where making the hybrid infrastructure. So that is where you say that OpenNebula is one such open source platform for you to create such kind of IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. Then later, what kind of cloud I can think of means you can think of creating your own private cloud or public, or you can also have a combination, or that's sort of combining or integrating with the other cloud infrastructure. That is where you said as a hybrid clouds, right? So then basically speaking, so whenever you talk about you are creating your own private cloud, so that is what I mean to say, where you are creating the actually creating the data centers. So on any physical server you may be creating the virtual servers to manage them. So okay, so where you may be thinking of the data centers. So whenever you talk about such kind of data centers, so what are the different resources you can really think of in the sense? It can be any computational resources or storage resources or networking resources. These are the items which you are calling it as an infrastructure, is it not? So that is what the infrastructure, right? It's a you are creating the virtual infrastructure than the physical infrastructure. So that comprises of what? It is a computation resources, storage resources, or the networking resources. So that's what I'm trying to convey, guys. So the OpenNebula is an open platform or the open source platform. So for you, it will allow you to, or it will give you the service. What service? Where you can create the infrastructure for yourself. Either it can be in the means of a private to yourself or public to the end users, or it can also be the hybrid. So basically, whenever you talk about this OpenNebula, that's what we say, that where you will be utilizing majorly in any kind of enterprise environments, and also research labs. So whenever we want to do any kind of a research experiments, okay, I don't want to directly start implementing my different protocols directly in the AWS or the or any kind of Azure or anywhere. I have come up with a new protocol or new mechanism which can suit for any cloud architecture. So but I not to implement that, can I directly start using the actual cloud service providers? Can it affect, or what the cost involved? For all those question marks, you have one such solution is something like OpenNebula. You create a cloud infrastructure for yourself. You create the cloud infrastructure which actually resembles the actual cloud. Then you start implementing your new mechanisms or new protocols. If it definitely works well without any kind of issues or any exceptions, you can think of using the any kind of cloud service provider. So such cases where majority where we'll be using the research lab as well. Obviously, then again we are using it as a service provider. What service provider it is, just like the IaaS. So that is just a kind of a overview about the OpenNebula. Then later, what are the different key features of OpenNebula in the sense? So obviously it supports the multi-virtualization. So because in the previous concepts where we have already seen what do you mean by the virtual machine, what are the what is the hypervisor, all that we have seen. So now this OpenNebula, where we are utilizing such kind of environment to create the private cloud. So this is where we usually, you can say it as, okay, where you can create your own it's a different kind of virtual machines and the different hypervisors. So it can be the kernel based virtual machine, it can be the LXD or VMware, all that we'll be seeing in the in the further topics. So it supports, the OpenNebula supports the multi virtualization, because as I already mentioned in the previous slide, where you can create the private, or you may also think of creating the hybrid clouds as well. The next is something like related to the orchestration. What orchestration is the cloud orchestration, where you can think of start from creating till the managing such kind of cloud infrastructure, which will be having any number of virtual machines. That's what deployment and scaling of virtual machines. It can by increasing, that's what scale up and scale down the required virtual machines. And also the for services, for providing any services, you are thinking about the containers. So to manage all that, you can make use of this OpenNebula. Next is something, next key feature is self-service portal. That's what we mean to say self-service portal, to with respect to whom, in the sense it is with respect to the user. So user can have the complete accountability, who can really think of, see, if I am the user, I can have a real feel that it is me who is creating the cloud. It is me who is managing the cloud. It is me who is sending the request. Like that, I can have the self control. I can have the self control over that services to which you are sending the request. So that's what we say, that self service portal. Next, as I already mentioned in the previous slide, it can support hybrid and edge. So it can support the hybrid in integration with respect to any other service providers like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. Okay, so it is not restricting with you only, with you, it will not, it is not restricting with you only with the what we say, that enterprise only. So you can also combine with the other cloud service providers, making you being a hybrid clouds. Okay, next is networking flexibility. Networking flexibility, as we already speaking, that you need to, you are in a part where you are creating your own cloud and managing such kind of cloud. So for that, definitely you have to utilize the connecting mechanisms. Whenever you want to utilize such kind of connecting mechanisms, you must also use what kind of networking configurations you want. So can I have my own private network? So definitely yes. So that's what we say, that it may configurations which can include with respect to the either VLANs, virtual LANs, or it can be the software defined networks, SDNs, right? So it will allow you to use such. So that's why networking flexibility it is, you can. Next is storage management is one more key feature of the OpenNebula, where just like your actual cloud service provider infrastructure can have the storage in the platform. So similar kind of the we have a storage mechanisms in the OpenNebula. So that is where usually Ceph, we have LVM, we have NFS, we have at the backend for providing such kind of storage services. So next is multi-tenancy and access control. So see, the basic, whenever it is not just about the open nebula, whenever we figured out the features of the cloud. Okay, I hope you remembered very beginning topics when we saw the features of cloud. So there we have listed out this multi-tenancy, the one feature you need. I mean, it's a one requirement why the we people move on to the cloud, which is for the multi-tenancy. But just because it will allow you for multi-tenancy, you should also have the control over the access. So because always you cannot have the single tenancy services, so you need to have a sharing services. That is what multi-tenancy is most required. But at the same time, you should also have the clear picture as who can access what, right? That's what access control. Last one is scalability and high availability. Definitely scale up and scale down is so easy for you, because you don't have to depend on anybody. You can scale up and scale down. And also I have availability, as you are creating your own lab for yourself. So all the resources whatever you have created in your lab is available for all your all your services. That's what we say, that labs which are set up, it can be this from the small labs to the large enterprise cloud infrastructure. So where you can think of utilizing such kind of services. Like that, I just listed out some of the key features of this OpenNebula to give you the simple awareness about the OpenNebula. What is an OpenNebula, and what and where, for what are all the purposes you can think of, and what is the key features of OpenNebula. Further, moving to the, whenever you think of building the OpenNebula, okay, as we already mentioned, so OpenNebula, which is just like a cloud on the vCenter, which is VMware vCenter, right? So whenever you think of building the OpenNebula, what exactly you must be aware about? That's what we say, that when the very first step, whenever you want to build the OpenNebula, it is to design it clearly. When I say design it clearly, what do I mean to say? See, as simple as, just if I have to tell you in a general sense, I already mentioned that whenever I am telling you wanted to create your own private cloud, then you can think of using the OpenNebula. I said you. Now is the point. If at all, if you want to create such kind of private cloud for you, then don't you think that you must have the complete awareness about that, what you want? Example, again, if I have to quote in a general example, see, there is a one, there is one, multi, or in, let me say, there is one apartment which is already built up. You go and buy one flat. For that, you don't have to, you will not be, you may not be part of designing that entire apartment. That is what you are the cloud service providers, right? You will just go and tell him that I need the 2 BHK flat or 3 BHK flat, or 1 BHK, or any number. Like, you just tell your requirements. It is already designed. It is already built up. That built up flat will be sold to you. You will only pay for that. That's simple. But now I'm talking about this OpenNebula, where you want to create, as simple as, when you want to create, you want to build your own house. Okay, when you want to build your own house, don't you think that you should have the complete requirements and specifications? You should have the complete design. Similarly here also, so when the very first step, if you think of building the OpenNebula for yours, I mean, so open you start using the OpenNebula and building your own required private network or private cloud, you the very first step, very first basic requirement is that you should have the clear design. When I say that you should have the clear design, what and all I should know? What and all I should know? That is where you should have the three different items. One is infrastructure components. Second one is the cloud size and capacity plan. Third one is provisioning workflow. I repeat, as I already mentioned, before one can think of using this OpenNebula so well, the one must have a complete awareness about the designing. It is as same as I'm just again quoting the example. Before you think of constructing the home for yourself, it is you are constructing, in the sense you should have the clear plan of action. Okay, I wanted to build in the so and so square feet site. I wanted to build on the so and so number of floors, and in each floor I wanted to give this kind of structure. So every scenario you must have point number one. Point number two, you must have what kind of, you must know what kind of cement you should use, what kind of bricks you should use, what kind of other steel items you should use. Every because those are the resources you are using, right? Such as cement, sand, and bricks. All these are the resources which you are using, right? Then only you will plan accordingly. And also, you see, based on the number of floors you want to construct, so the beams or the pillars capacity should be different. Same story I'm trying to connecting to you people, my dear. Try to understand here. So what I'm trying to convey, if you wanted to use OpenNebula properly, and if you wanted to make sure that it works properly, in the sense, one must have the clear cut, what clarity on this design. Okay, so when I say that what is design, so as a design, what I must have, in the sense, as already mentioned here, that so infrastructure component, what are all those infrastructure? It's something like what kind of networking I have to use, what kind of storage mechanism I should use, what a kind of authentication mechanism use, and what is my, very importantly, what is my virtualization backend. As I mentioned, it can be KVM, LXD, or vCenter, VMware vCenter. What exactly I have to use. Similarly, what is my cloud size I am going to plan? I should plan what should be my cloud size, what will be the number of clients for my services. I cannot simply, you see, as simple as, right? If only two members will be staying in the house, there is no meaning in you build a house with a 12,000 or 20,000 square feet. So you should have a clear cut plan. So here also, so what is the number of cloud size you are planning? What is the capacity of that particular cloud you are trying to plan? When I say that workload is very important, what is the workload it has to take up? How many client requests can be there per seconds or per minute or per day? You should have expected number of users. Then again, scalability. Does it allow you to scale up and scale down based on the requirement? You should have a plan. Third item is provisioning. Provisioning, what do you mean to say that provisioning? In the sense, it is something like how they are isolated and how they can be accessed. How they can be accessed. See, right now I am using my laptop, but in my home it is not like my laptop is only for me. So so anybody who are there in my home, I repeat, anybody who are there in my home can use my laptop. That's what it, provisioning is there. Provisioning of using this laptop is there, but who can use at what time? That is what access control should have the clear clarity. So my dear, it is for you, whenever you wanted to think of this using the OpenNebula for creating any of your own private cloud, or your own for your startup or anything, you should have this clear picture. So what is the infrastructure components you are thinking of, cloud size and capacity, and also the provisioning workflow. Once you have this, then you think of creating the uh, I would say start using the OpenNebula for the effective use. Then later, as I just mentioned in the previous slide, which is the here I just mentioned, right? Virtualization backends. It can be the any kind of hypervisors. So whenever you talk about what kind of hypervisors are applicable with the OpenNebula, that's what OpenNebula is compatible with. What kind of hypervisors means? There are three types. Let us mention here. One is the open cloud architecture, where the two types of hypervisors. One is the KVM, the other one is the LXD. Second type of the architecture which we are going to talk about, which is VMware cloud architecture, for which the hypervisor is vCenter, which is VMware vCenter. The next is which is OpenNebula provisioning model. For the OpenNebula provisioning model, where again we'll be combining the KVM and the vCenter, kernel virtual machine and the virtual VMware vCenter. Likewise, so based on the respective architecture, we'll be using the respective hypervisors as a backend for your OpenNebula. Now we'll be starting with every architecture, and we'll be discussing in detail about every architecture, which is open cloud architecture, which with respect to both KVM and LXD. Then again, VMware cloud architecture, where with respect to the vCenter, and provisioning models with respect to the KVM and vCenter. We'll be discussing one by one now. Before we start with, anybody has any queries till now? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.